Don't get me wrong, I love what I do. I love my job. It's wonderful. I love talking to you guys about football, but sometimes you want to just erase something from your head that you've just witnessed. That was a tedious game of football, and I'm here so you don't have to be here to try and talk about that game of football for at least 10 minutes. I don't know how I'm going to manage it because I got to the point when I realised I was looking at my phone frequently, and I was like, Stephen, pay attention to the game. You've got a video to make after this. But sometimes the game is so dull that it drags you down to its very level. Thankfully, One Football isn't as dull. Please do download One Football and get all your Manchester City news and stats and information and transfer gossip. There was loads of transfer gossip today, of course, about Kylian Mbappe and loads more about Haaland's release fee clause and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to stay ahead of the game and get something wildly more interesting than a Manchester City 0-0 draw against Copenhagen, download One Football and help support my channel by clicking the link in the description below. It's wonderful, I promise you. Much better than that dross you've just witnessed, and it helps support me. Do it right now. But yeah, I think there's a temptation maybe sometimes with a game like this to try and overanalyze it or whatever, or try and draw some conclusions, and I don't think there's anything you really can take from me. I know that sounds really kind of, I'm defeating the purpose of this video a minute in already, but I'm being totally honest with you. I don't think we can learn anything from that really, other than it was just one of those nights of football. There were plenty of talking points in general, like broadly speaking, from around the game and what happened and on the pitch stuff, but I don't think we learned anything other than just a crazy night, which is going to happen at every single level, every now and then. There's always a weird Champions League game. There always is. There's one game where something weird happens and more strange thing happens, and you just have to go, let's just forget about that. It happens every single season that we just have one weird game of football or one very unmemorable, and that one was tonight. I personally zoned out when the referee went to the VAR screen for the third time. It was farcical performance from the referee, in my personal opinion, and also just a very obvious reminder of just what VAR has done to football. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I know people debate about this all the time, and people go, it's not VAR, it's the referees, but the two are so intrinsically linked, because you can't have VAR without the referees, that I don't really get that argument, because the people who are using it are referees, and referees are by very definitional fussy, pedantic people, because that is their job, to be fussy and pedantic. And if you give fussy and pedantic people the control, they will sap the joy and life out and everything that they can do, because that's what those people are like. People aren't into refereeing because they enjoy the love of the game. They're in it because they're drawn to fastidious rules and all that kind of stuff. And what we've got, in my personal opinion now, the problem with VAR is it's not the referees, it is. But the problem is VAR just does not mesh with football in the slightest. You could turn around and talk about video interventions in other sports, but so many sports are not are so much more binary. They're either in or out, or it touched this or it didn't touch this. But football is so much more open to interpretation because the rules are so much more loose, and they're not black and white. They're not just yes or no. They're not like that. One or two of them are, like, did the ball cross the line or did it not? But when you get to handballs and what's offside and what isn't offside and all this kind of stuff, or was it intent, or was it dangerous play? Was that one a handball? This one, it gets very messy and very murky. The waters get very murky. So in my opinion, what's happened is we're trying to change football to adapt to VAR. Not the other way around. VAR isn't adapting to football. Football is adapting to VAR. It's totally, utterly backwards. So what you get is incredibly confusing interpretations. You get overly fussy, finicky interpretations, which rob football of its soul and its joy. And I absolutely fucking hate it. You get a goal today, like Rodri's, where that's an absolute thunder bastard. I mean, like, a ball goes over a defender. Mahrez doesn't see it. It bounces off his hand. It doesn't go anywhere. Mahrez is going to control that anyway. We're not gaining an advantage from that happening. I mean, you have to be particularly biased. I think City have just done some evil thing where we gained advantage. It's a nothing moment, and then a couple of more touches happens, so accidental, so irrelevant, and look what happens. You rule out what we watch football for, a goal like that. And then as well, even the penalty that we won, this is a City fan saying it, that was nonsense, man, as well. The defender was jumping. You jump, you don't jump like that. You don't jump like a fish, do you? You know what I mean? Like, and even that was given as a penalty, and I didn't think that was. But you know, that's then we missed it, of course. Farcical. I actually think the Gomez red card was probably a red card. I actually think that was probably a decent interpretation. He panicked, he grabbed hold of him, he pulled him back when he was through and goal. Fair enough in that instance, fair enough. But I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And I know I'm not talking about the game as such, but that was the overall memory of this game for me. Another reminder of what stupid system that we've interpreted and forced on this game. Football's changing to suit VAR. VAR, not the other way around. It should never be. Football shouldn't change to suit the rules and the methods that people make rules. No, absolutely not. I can't really talk too much about individual performances. Of course, the game was really changed when Gomez got sent off. I think there's a temptation, by the way, Gomez to make conclusions and jump at him, and I've seen people on Twitter already doing it, going, he was never good enough anyway, and he's not good enough, and he's a fraud. And grow up is what I will say. I would understand if people were, if people may be entitled to that opinion if anyone's been aggressively, going at this idea that Gomez was good enough to be a City player. They weren't. Maybe one or two were, but they weren't. Largely Gomez so far, he hasn't been a problem. If you're pretending he's been a problem, I think you're lying to back up your current mood right now, because he hasn't. He's looked exactly what he is. A cheap backup prospect to pad out the squad, who has ability, who's versatile, and will play multiple positions and learn in time. That's what he's looked like to me. There's been some good moments, some slightly bad moments, but nothing terrible or nothing incredible. Just some overall pretty decent, like a cheap backup player who will learn. That's all he's ever meant to be, and that's what he's been so far. So there's a temptation to conclude on Gomez now. There isn't. Don't worry about it, man. Look at him. Reassess your viewpoint. If you view him as exactly what he is, a young prospect who came in as a backup, who will play when we don't necessarily always need him to play, but he'll be played because someone else needs to be rested or whatever in a game like this, he's absolutely fine. And hopefully in time he'll get better, because he's already shown he's quite an intelligent footballer, other than a rush of blood to the head today and a rash challenge. But I don't think we have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about it. And other than that, really, look, it's hard to judge anyone else's individual performance, because after that moment it comes really hard to judge, because the game gets bitty, it gets tiring, it gets difficult in a cold Copenhagen ahead of their ultras in a loud stadium. It's very much about managing the game at that point, and players trying to force things because the rhythm and the flow isn't there, because all the patterns and link-up plays that they spend all week working towards, they're just not there, because he's one less player on the pitch. So I don't mind City in this instance not playing well with just 10 on the pitch. I mean, we did concede a goal, we did concede many chances, so that's a credit to them, really. And we did have a couple of chances as well, a couple of little half chances here and there. Alvarez toiled and he ran, and KDB tried to make some magic happen, but it was not going to happen. The defence held solid. Gundogan tried to do what he could on his own. There was not really much to take from it, other than the fact that, we did rest some players. Haaland, of course, rested, which, in my opinion, I know there's some of you guys over here who only really care about stats because it gives you ammo on Twitter, and you care about that stuff. Fair enough, that's how you want to support football, but Haaland, in my opinion, was right to be rested. We've got to rest him at some point, because this is a guy who's got a record of injuries, who can't play every single game, because we need him for the games that actually matter, like Liverpool at the weekend, for example, not a random, fourth tie in the Champions League when we're already about to go through anyway, and it's away at Copenhagen. Sometimes you got to rest him, and I think it was the right call. I know that kind of puts down your stat pad sessions, but you know what? That's just life. That's football. You can't play every player in every game all the time, because it ain't realistic. So, unfortunately, he wasn't playing, but I think it was the right call. I think it was the right call. We saw Foden, of course, and Bernardo get a decent little rest. They got on eventually, but, I'm glad that they're going to be available to sprint and run at the weekend, and KDB came after 75 minutes. Ultimately, this game, we did have one eye half on the Liverpool game, and that's fair enough, man. That's fair enough. It does feel weird playing a game that early, and I'm recording this video, it's only 10 to 8, which feels absolutely surreal, but, sometimes you have a night like this. Looking back, we probably should have realised, actually, things weren't right when Ederson tried to control the ball in the back of his net in a 5:45pm kickoff. It was a weird night of football, and every now and then you do have a game like this, and maybe it's just a good idea to get this game out of the way, strike it off as one of those weird nights where things went weird shit happened, we didn't play particularly well, referee was being fastidious and annoying, it is what it is. It happens, and sometimes I'd rather it be in a game like this at Meads now than a game like Liverpool, Maybe it was good practice for Liverpool, and maybe Guardiola will use that performance tonight, which is frustrating in many ways, to get the players more and more ready for the weekend game, and I'm absolutely fine with that, man. So there's not too much to say. Other than we just survived a weird night of football, and given everything that's gone on recently, given the quality of the football and the goals and the fluidity, look, we probably deserved a night like this, because we've had it so good that we can't complain when we have one night which is very, very forgettable and very, 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 very unmemorable, But anyway, that's my verdict on this game. I'm going to go off to stroll Twitter like the rest of us, and just sit here like, I don't know, football on? I don't know, yeah. Oh yeah, City played tonight. No, it was, yeah. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. I thought it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And that is my opinion. Terrible. Not worth kind of stewing over, because that's football. And we'll see you at the weekend, of course, for Liverpool. And I'll see you tomorrow for more stuff about City, obviously, and whatever. But that was, whatever. I'm going to go and play Last of Us 2. I've started that again. It's good fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm probably going to have a rum coke as well. And some dinner, because it's only 8 o'clock and I'm not eating yet, which is strange. Because it's football starting now, usually. Confusing. Bye-bye. Love you all.